Hi BookTube, I'm here with my March TBR. Yeah, so I have a handy dandy, I got all fancy and I made like a special template and yeah, have my TBR on there. But before I go into that, there's another goal that I planned in 2023. I didn't exactly get around to it until March. So it also involves books in a kind of way in that I want to use my cookbooks more. So I decided once a week, you know, not going to stress myself out to do it every day. Once a week I'm going to cook a recipe from those recipe books, and I randomly selected them off the shelf. The first one's not exactly a book, it's a collection in binders of different recipes that I had, and I just searched through this one for one that I like. See, they're just like cutouts from different magazines and cookbooks, recipe cards, that kind of stuff from magazines. And the recipe I ended up going with is actually one that's kind of like static clung to the back here. And it's chicken satay. And I got this actually from the Sorted Food YouTube channel. So yeah, I'll be cooking chicken satay sometime in March. And then I have these other three cookbooks here. This is the Bob's Burgers cookbook. I got this from my brother, and like these burgers are really good. I can't have the buns, so when it says it's a special bun, I just kind of get sad and either eat it on my sad, pathetic gluten-free bread or on a salad. Yeah, but this one is the one that I decided to do. It is Blondes Have More Fungus burger, and it is with button mushrooms and a coconut peanut butter sauce, and I was just like, that sounds good. Chicken satay is peanut butter and coconut milk as well, but you know, I guess I have a craving. Then this was my grandmother's cookbook, and you could tell it was well loved. Actually I tabbed this recipe and I didn't know why, and I decided to go to that. And one of the favorite things that my grandma used to cook for us, she'd send me, I'd go home with a big mason jar full of my Opa's vegetable soup, and my Oma would give me zucchini bread. And well, my Opa soup doesn't have a recipe. I found the recipe for the zucchini bread, so I'll be cooking that. I'm really excited to do that. Of course, I'm gonna have to replace the flour with my kind of flour, but yeah. And the next one is Eat Delicious by Dennis the Prescott. I never heard of them. I just saw this cookbook and thought, eh, why not? Seems interesting, and I believe the recipe is on page 177. Yeah. And okay, I love Korean food. And I didn't think there would be a Korean recipe in this book. I don't know, because you know, he's a white dude. But there's a recipe for beef bulgogi, and the place where I get bulgogi from has really weird hours, and I never seem to be there when they're open. So I'm gonna try make it myself. Yeah, so beef bulgogi from Eat Delicious. I might let you know how that goes at the end of the year. So, you'll notice that I don't have my game set up. And that's because my reading this month is going to be dominated by a few things. First of all, I have two giant books that I'm carrying over, and that was done on purpose. One is over here. The Bone Hunters, which I decided to space out over 3 months. I'm currently on page 398, and so I'll be reading another 400 pages in this, and then the other book is way over there, but I'll put a picture here, and that is The Grey House, and I'm hoping to get half of it read by the end of the month, and I'll read the other half in March. So those two big books we're carrying over, and then there's Canada Reads in March too, and I didn't want to read the books in February. I saved them for March because it's right at the end of the month, so there's lots of time to read them. So yeah, I'm not playing the game. I just filled in the spots with other books to fulfill some goals. So I had more control over them. So let's get into the Canada Reads books. I have my e-reader here. I'm reading 2 on ebook and 2 I did order physical copies of. So I'm just not showing you the front because that's a book I'm currently reading. So the ones on the ebook will be Greenwood by Michael Christie. This one is, I think there's dual timelines, and from what I remember, one is a guy who's giving tours in a forest, because forests aren't really that widespread in this one timeline. So that's all I really remember about that one. Don't ask me who's defending these books right now. I didn't write that down. Mexican Gothic is the other one. I didn't know Sylvia Moreno-Garcia was Canadian. She's Mexican-Canadian. So yeah, that was pretty cool. So that's a well-known book. I think a girl goes to visit a family member after they ask her for help, and it's supposed to be Gothic and Mexican. Obviously, hopefully from the title. And the other two physical copies, I'm just pulling them off my TBR cart here. I have Hotline by Dimitri. This is about a woman who's escaping Lebanon's civil war, comes to Montreal, but the only work she can get is at a weight loss center, which is a call-in hotline thing. So yeah, that sounds interesting. And then I have Ducks by Kate Beaton, and this is a graphic novel. I like Kate Beaton's works. I have Hark a Vagrant on my shelf, and I read the comics online. So I'm excited to see this like long form. Her other ones are just like little webcomic type things. So this is her, there's a common phenomenon in Eastern Canadian culture, so the maritime provinces. They're kind of known as have-not provinces. There's not a lot of population, there's not a lot of money there, so what happens is that they will leave to go work generally on the oil sands in Alberta, and then come back with their money to then set up lives here. It's now going a lot in the opposite direction. I can speak so myself, as coming from Ontario to New Brunswick, as opposed to like being in New Brunswick and moving out. It's interesting. But anyways, this is about her experience on the oil sands. Okay, then we will just get into the rest of the physical books. They're all physical. I didn't go to the library again this month. I kind of wanted to, but I just didn't, because all the books I had on my shelf were ones that I wanted to read. So let me just put some books back here. Okay, I'm just going to pull them off in whatever order they are in. Okay, so I'm excited because I'm going to be finishing a few series. Yeah, so let's get into it. I just have it without the hardcover. I lost it, unfortunately. I did have that really cool purple cover here. This is Xenogenesis. I'm not reading this whole thing. I've read the first two books. So this is a series by Octavia Butler, and I'm going to be reading the last in the series. Piece of paper in there. The last in the series, Imago. I'm not going to hold this up because there's nothing to look at there. So the Xenogenesis series, the first book I'll tell you about, because that way I won't spoil the rest of them. So the first book, Earth is dying, and this one character, Lilith, I believe that's her name. Yes, Lilith, of course, because the alternate title is Lilith's Brood. So Lilith gets saved by these aliens, and they said, hey, we're going to save humanity, but you're going to have to interbreed with us. And it sounds like it's just alien erotica, but it's not. It's mostly about what it means to be human. How much of a human can you change and still have them be human? Yeah, I think that's the basic theme running throughout. I don't know what Imago is about, but the first one we followed Lilith and the whole setup, and then the second one we follow Lilith's son, and so I'll be interested to see where the third one takes us. Next up I have Hild by Nicole Griffith, and this is 7th century Britain. New religion is coming ashore and small kingdoms emerging. Hild is the king's youngest niece with a glittering mind and a natural authority. She becomes Saint Hilda of Whitby. So this is historical fiction. Yeah, sounds really interesting. It's got the plastic. It's coming off. Oh, it's really coming off. Oh, it feels good underneath though. Oh, but it's ripping. Next, I have Brown Girl in the Ring by Nalo Hopkinson. I've been wanting to read this forever. Ever since I found out Nalo Hopkinson was Canadian. This is set in Toronto. I believe it doesn't say on the back, but no, it doesn't say on the back. But yeah, there's something happens. It's post-apocalyptic, I believe. The rich and the privileged have fled the city, barricaded it behind roadblocks, and left it to crumble. Their inner city had had to rediscover old ways, but now the moneyed need to harvest the bodies, and so they prey upon the helpless of the streets. Yeah, so that sounds harrowing, but also really cool cover. Like, look at that. Really cool stuff going on there. So, I'm looking forward to reading that. Part of my overarching goals is to read a book on religion each month. So I got God, A Human History by Reza Aslan. I read a similar history by Karen Armstrong, I believe her name is, and I really enjoyed that. And I really, really loved Zealot by Reza Aslan, which is about Jesus as a human being. So this, I opened it up and that's the bibliography. So this book is not nearly as long as I thought it would be. It is only 171 pages, and the rest of that is bibliography and notes. Yeah, so I'm assuming this is just going to be what it's about, and I just found, whoever bought this before me, there was, holy cow! Whatever they bought, they spent $689.83. I haven't opened this book, obviously. Digital World. What did they buy? No clue, because it didn't say, it's just a bunch of weird. Oh, and there's your name. Oh, Allison, I won't share your last name. Thank you for donating this book so I could read it, and leaving that receipt in there. She's a rich one. Okay, next book is another finishing a series. I'm so excited. How can I talk about this book? I don't know what this book is about exactly. The first two books were very different. I don't think you have to read them in any order. They're kind of more linked thematically than like plot-wise or character-wise. So the first one is called The Death of Vishnu. It's called the Hindu God series, so each one's named after a god. So the first one's Vishnu, and we follow this man who's living on the what's it called? The area of the stairs where it's big, you know what I mean? The landing, that's what it's called. The landing of a building, and he's dying. Yeah, and the second one is called, it's up there, The Age of Shiva. That's what it's called. I loved The Death of Vishnu. That was really good. The Age of Shiva, not so much. That follows a woman who and her marriage, and I'm just really not at all interested in stories about marriage. This one apparently has more, yes, is more about gay rights and gay people. We have Jazz. He's a Muslim, but his true religion has steadfastly been sex with men. Traversing the surreal landscape, always under the perverse influence of the Bollywood cinema, mega-hit super Devi, that some blame for sparking religious fanaticism, both Sarita and Jazz find themselves drawn to the patron goddess Devi Ma, supposed savior of the city. So that sounds interesting. I didn't see what Sarita. She must buy the last pomegranate that remains in the entire city for her physicist husband Karun, who has been mysteriously missing for over a fortnight. I have no clue what that means. It's going to be really interesting finding out. I do like his writing. That's one thing I do have to say. I enjoy his writing. Even if I didn't like the plot and the characters in The Age of Shiva, I kept reading for the writing. Anyways, next one. Funny Boy by Shyam, Selvadurai, and this is a LGBTQ, wow, too many letters there. This is an LGBTQ plus classic. A debut novel too, I just realized that. It takes place in Sri Lanka during the 7 years leading up to the 1983 riots, and a boy discovering his sexuality. Okay, so those are all the physical books. The ebook, audiobook is going to be Exile and Pride, which is a memoir by Eli Clare exploring queerness, disability. I thought there was something else in the title. I'll put it here. I can't remember. I just wrote Exile and Pride. Yeah, by Eli Clare. It seems to be a memoir done in a series of essays. So that will be interesting to listen to. And then I have comics. Life on the Moon, which is, it was described as a novel in pictures. And it's a fantasy. If you see the cover, it has the moon, and I thought it'd be science fiction, but there's dragons on it, so maybe a bit of both. Bad Machinery, The Case of the Team Spirit. Again, I don't write the authors or artists or anything on my list because it just take up a whole page by itself for those. And this one is done by the guy who started Giant Days, which I know is very popular on YouTube. I think I have it categorized under crime, so. And then I just do these randomly, so I don't know too much about them after I get the books. They kind of just go into a spreadsheet and I just pick them randomly. So then I got Chimichanga, The Sorrow of the World's Worst Face, which is about following a freak show at a circus, a monster and a young bearded lady, or girl, I think she's a little girl, and they get a new freak who hides his face because he has the world's ugliest face. Glitter Bomb, Red Carpet, which I think I got just for the title, Glitter Bomb, and it's categorized under crime as well. So I usually just pick it off the art and the title. That's how I choose comic books. And then Spawn, Dark Horror, which is a Spawn story. It's Spawn. Which more do you need to know? And then I have a plan to do a vlog for Batman comics. I love Batman. I feel I haven't read a lot of Batman comics lately, so I wanted to rectify this. And his birthday is April 7th. So I have a plan to film a vlog of me reading a week of just Batman comics. I'm releasing it on his birthday. It will be his 108th birthday if you go by his original birth date, 1915. But I'll be reading Black and White, the one that was released in 2021, which is a series of short stories. Blind Justice, City of Crime, Ghosts, Night Cries, which I'm very weary about because it seems to do with child abuse. I'm going to relieve that hopefully with some Batman and Robin and Howard, which is like a middle grade, you know, Batman, Robin, and Howard are all in middle school together. A crossover between Batman and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I love the Ninja Turtles, so. Last Night on Earth and Once Upon a Crime, which is another middle grade one. So I've got some like really serious dark ones, some short stories. Can you call them short stories in comics? I guess so. And then some middle grade to mix in there. So yeah, that is my reading plans for March. Except I did forget something. The book of the Bible that I'll be reading this time is the Book of Esther. I believe it's about a woman who seduces a king to prevent the genocide of her people. It's one of the shortest books, but I wanted to read one of the female-centered books this month. I believe International Women's Day is coming up, so why not? Let me know what you'll be reading this month, and thank you for watching.